Well, hi everyone, and welcome to a bit of game analysis. It's not of the World Championships, which is going on, and it looks like Ding's going to win round one. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. It's actually a game I played at the weekend. I don't play much chess, it was a classical game, and I think it was very interesting, and it shows my new secret opening, which I'm sure a lot of you will be very interested to see. Now, I'm going to dive straight into the action. I had the black pieces against Stanley Badacsonyi, who's a FIDE master around 2300 strength. And after d4, I went into a kind of Dutch, but not my normal Dutch. And I'm going to soon release a video course on this from Ginger GM, this opening I'm about to show you, because it's so much fun. And it's a really, I think, very good way to meet d4. My opponent played standard idea, c4. So the Dutch is where you move this pawn to f5. And the game continued with g3. And now I brought my knight out. And my opponent plays the main line. This bishop very good here. And now, rather than playing the classical variation, which is bishop e7 and here, which I'm best known for, which is a good variation, just the problem for me is that everyone expects me to play it, so they're prepared. This was a classical game. My opponent's a young, well-prepared player, and I didn't really want to just play the first 20 moves out of a book. I wanted to get a fresh and interesting position. I've been looking at a new idea, which is very rare, but I thought really cool. And it starts with me going into a stone wall structure. And the stone wall, I think, is a very underrated opening. It's a very safe opening to play as well. My opponent now develops his knight to f3, all normal moves. And this is where I start to play some slightly peculiar moves with one idea in mind. It's an idea that Richard Rapport, one of my favourite players ever, started to play. Now, normally you put the bishop on d6 in these positions, and this is the standard stone wall. But I put my bishop on e7. And now after my opponent castled, I played another slightly peculiar move. I did not castle, there's a reason why. I threw my knight into the centre of the board. And now my opponent played his next move quite quickly, and already I don't think it's the most accurate move, even though the computer gives it as one of the best moves. And that's queen c2. Normally a very good square for the queen, a bit of pressure here, looking at the centre. And I play another slightly peculiar move now. The typical stone wall is where we play c6, and this is where it gets the name from. You get the stone wall, very hard to breach structure. But now that my opponent hasn't attacked d5 with a second piece, I'm able to bring my knight to c6. And we see my real plan after b3, another standard idea here. Now I'm actually analysing this on Lee Chess, and Lee Chess thinks my next move's a mistake, but I do tend to disagree with that. And the next move shows the whole point of this opening. h5. Forget about what Lee Chess says. Forget about it giving h5 a mistake. I very much disagree with that assessment. I think this is a fascinating new opening idea. And this is the idea I wanted to show and wanted to play. And it worked perfectly in this game. It's an idea Richard Rapport's where basically you get this very strong centre, and you can only really attack on the side of the boards when you have a strong centre. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm trying to attack on the side of the boards, and I'm trying to use my favourite pawn, the h pawn, to open up the position. Now my opponent played bishop to a3. Now the computer thinks h4 is a better idea, and I haven't analysed this move with a computer. I was probably going to play g5 here and just go for it. It's an absolutely ridiculous idea, but why not? But we'll get to where it gets very interesting, because bishop a3 doesn't seem like a terrible move here. I put my bishop on f6 because I want my bishop to control h4 for when I push my h-pawn. My opponent played rook d1, defending the pawn there, and I push on h4. And here Stanley developed his knight. And now I open up the h-file. This is the whole point of this idea. He took with the h-pawn, which I think is best, because taking with the f-pawn really weakens this square. And I might even have little ideas like this coming in. Yeah, it looks very scary for him. And now I have my first long think of the game, because so far I had planned everything pretty much up to this position. This is the setup I wanted to play. Open up the H-file and attack. And the computer gives this as, after my next move, still quite a big advantage for white. But again, I disagree. This is much easier for black to play. If I get a queen over on the H-file, I can attack him. I've got this good knight here. But I may need to bring my other rook into the position. So I was thinking of moves like G5 here, but I settled on Queen D7. Again, the computer doesn't think it's the most accurate, but I like this move. The queen is coming to F7, getting off the rook. The bishop then can come here, I can castle, and the queen's coming to H5. So I'm just trying to bring all my pieces over to attack. And here white played E3, shoring up the centre. Again, the computer's quite critical of this, but not convinced. And now Queen F7, and it's certainly at this point where my opponent starts to go wrong here. And he has to be very careful here. If I was white here, I'd be getting very afraid, and I'd be looking at doing something a bit drastic, like Knight E5, trying to give up pawn. This was the only move I really analysed. I thought if he kept playing quietly here, I'm just going to keep building up, I'm going to castle, and I'm going to checkmate him. And my opponent played Knight E2, which I don't think really helps him. The idea is to bring the knight here, here, and here. I simply played G5 to stop that idea, and G5's a move I want to play anyway. He now played another mistake, Bishop B2, and after Queen H5, he's in a lot of trouble. Maybe his idea was to go Knight E5, but actually this would be another mistake, because I go Knight B4, and when his queen has to go to the back rank, I take the knight on E2, win a whole piece. So Stanley now moved the king to F1, and I didn't see anything immediate, but look how well this opening's worked against the FIDE master. And it's really rare. The only grandmaster I've seen who's played this is Richard Rapport. And you can play this Stonewall Dutch, you can play this against the most common G3 systems all the time. All you have to do is throw the H-pawn up the board and checkmate. What fun! So I will be doing a course on this soon, because I think it's a really cool new Stonewall. I think I actually used this, didn't I, in one of my long play games you might have seen. But here, I couldn't see an immediate win, and I have this rule: when you're attacking, if there's no immediate win, then you've got to bring in the reinforcements. So I just want to bring these guys in. So there's no reason I can't castle queenside, so I played Bishop D7. My opponent played Knight E5. I just ignore it. I castle. And one idea is to go Rook H7, Rook H8, Queen H1 check, Bishop H1, Rook H1, King G2, Rook here check, King F3, G5, G4 check, King F4, Bishop at G5 checkmate. Let me just show that. So if he goes here, I'm going to show this plan. I'm just saying if he doesn't do anything, but you've got to have plans to attack. Now this doesn't actually quite work because he's got Knight G1, but you know, in some circumstances you've got to look at these attractive ideas, and this is even a quicker checkmate. This is like the general way I can build up the position. I'm just building up. Now my opponent took on D7, and I was very happy to see this because my bishop I didn't think was great. The only potential it had was to come over here, and now my rook can swing over quicker in this position. And now he played F3, which is the move I expected, and this is the normal human move to play. I think already white is in a lot of trouble here because I'm just going to keep improving my position. He has no attack. I can bring the rook over here. I can think about sacrifices. One idea is maybe here taking on G2 at the right time. Sacrifice the queen like that. The other idea is just play Queen G4 and just bring the rook in. I've got massive attacks, and F3 was the move I totally expected. But the only thing I'd be a bit critical about my opponent, he's a really good player, probably a better blitz player than me is Stanley. He's young, he's going to be a GM, but he maybe plays a bit too much blitz because this is a longer classical play game, and you could see maybe at the odd occasion it would have been good just to spend a bit more time, because this is a very human move. But I had calculated this in advance, and I had realized that I had a couple of good options. First of all, my next move is very good, Knight B4, because I want the queen to go back further so it can't come across laterally to defend. So he plays the queen back to b1. And now I had quite a long think here, because my original idea was to go queen h2, which I think is just winning and was winning. But then I saw another exciting idea, which I played in the game. And the issue was I had two very good moves here, and I went for the more complicated move because it just felt like more fun and more aggressive to me. But that's probably a mistake. I realised that queen here is actually quite a simple way to win. And I should have just played this in hindsight. And the point is, if he takes my knight, I just take here. I got rook f7, a bishop move coming in, and even knight d3. And like, for example, this is pretty killing. I mean, if he goes king here, I calculated that I had rook f7. And now... rook h1. Let me just make sure I've calculated this right. Bishop takes d4, check. And if his king now retreats, I think I have queen takes g2. So knight f4 was critical. And in this position, there's a couple of very tempting moves. Even sacrificing the queen like this is very tempting, but the move which I thought was the best move was rook takes f4. And I had seen this variation. There was a knight d3's winning as well. But this was the nicest way, because he can't take with this pawn. He's got to take here. Then queen takes here, check. And we take there with mate. And I saw this line, and I thought, yeah, that's probably winning. But then I saw this move. And I love going forwards with my pawns. And for some reason, this attracted me more. And the point is, my opponent should probably go a3, but after the natural move, pawn takes here, I'm now threatening rook g7 and rook takes here. So if he plays pawn takes f4, I go rook g7, pawn takes knight, rook takes g2, king takes here, and this is probably the easiest way to checkmate him. And there's no escaping here for my opponent. And after... g takes f4, he has to take with a knight now, and now he's released this square. I can go knight g3 check, and I've only sacrificed one pawn for this attack. He needs to try and run away with a king, so I'd analyze this. Now queen h4 was tempting, but this is even stronger, queen h2. And now, just to avoid losing immediately, he has to be very, very accurate here. One idea is just to get rid of this knight and then take on g2. But there's also ideas like coming in here check and coming in here check. So he has to keep running with the king. King d2. This is all forcing. Bishop g5. My threat's just to take the knight. Take here. His next move is forced again. King c3. And I saw this position, and I have to admit, originally I was going to simply take on f4, and now I think he has to take back on f4, and here I was just going to play a move such as a5, but actually after rook d2 it's not, I think, entirely clear. There might be a knight e4 here, probably winning somehow. But I then saw another idea, and the move I played, c5, looked even stronger in this crazy position. And the point of c5 here is we just try to open things up. His king is pretty much trapped, and I saw some beautiful checkmate ideas which I couldn't resist playing. Now after c5, the threat is to take the knight and take the bishop, winning a piece. Now if he takes on c5, what is my idea? Well, let's just bear in mind that his only defense I could see is rook d2 in most positions, because he can't defend his ideas of rook g1, because if he ever goes rook g1, I take the knight, he has to take back, and I have this check, and this is just winning because the rook is on pre. So he has to, in most positions, play rook d2, which he played in the game. This is one of the reasons. But if he, for example, takes on c5 first, my point now is I've opened up this diagonal, so I can just defend my knight with a5. And now if he goes to the rook d2 defense, because this pawn, I've distracted it, I have this check. And one, this is obviously doing very well. He has to put the rook in the way, and I can win in a number of ways. So I expected him after c5. His position is lost, so I don't think saying this is inaccurate is really correct. This rook here, and now his king is nearly checkmated. And my next move is winning. There's probably better moves, but but the reason I played this line, I saw this beautiful idea, e5. And again, I'm trying to maybe checkmate him with a pawn. Well, I think he has to, first of all, he has to take this pawn because there's too much pressure here. Well, he can't take this pawn. And for example, one beautiful line which I saw, if he took here, I can now play d4 straight away, and if pawn takes, I can just take here. That's a very simple way to win a piece, win the game. But another really nice idea, and let me just make sure I got this correct. If he plays bishop h3, I always had to be on the lookout for this move, bishop h3. But again, this move doesn't work. And I was going to now take here with check. He takes. And there might have been other ways to do this, but I was going to play queen takes d2 check. This is what I had up my sleeve, a queen sacrifice, with the idea king takes, bishop takes f4 check. And now if he goes backwards, then I just go rook takes here, and this is, my pieces are just too strong. It's checkmate. And if he goes forwards, then this is a checkmate. I just couldn't resist setting up. I wanted to checkmate with a knight. So after e5, that was a very nice line. And my opponent now took the other pawn, which is fine because, again, my knight's on pre. His actually king can be quite safe coming this way. So now I play the best move, a5. And there's another beautiful line here. If he plays bishop h3 now, I think it's very similar to what we do, but there might even be something a bit stronger here. Again, I'm trying to set up checkmates with my knight. I can do the same thing, I think. d4 takes, and this is a pawn checkmate or a knight checkmate. You've got those choices. I could have gone there checkmate as well. And after a5, the only annoying thing about this whole game, I pretty much played perfectly. There's my whole idea after knight takes d5. I went for the simple route because I was getting a bit short of time, which is winning. But I had seen the winning idea. I just didn't trust myself. And the winning idea here, this is what I played. This is winning. Even though, again, the computer's very critical, it's a winning move. It's still +3. But the move I had planned was this brilliant move. And if I'd have played this move in the game, I think it would have been a fantastic game. One of the best games I've played this year. And I was planning to play this with two ideas. He can either check or take the bishop. And I just didn't do this. I went for the simple route, and which is silly after going so far. And the first thing is, if he takes this way, I was planning rook takes here, king takes, and now just rook here, check. And this looked completely winning. King here, knight e2, checkmate, beautiful checkmate. If he blocks, I take here, and this is going to be checkmate. And if he comes back at all with the king, then this one is what I was planning to do. And all my pieces are coming in with checkmate ideas here. It's too much. And the other idea, and this is what I didn't trust myself, was this check. And I was now planning to go king c7, rook takes here, king up to c6. And I've given up a whole rook with knight e2 checkmate ideas, as well as bishop d4 checkmate ideas. But I just didn't trust myself to play this. I thought, if he defends this, I've given up a whole rook, and my king is looking stupid. But the computer confirms, maybe even king b8 actually, this is much better, much safer square. The computer confirms that this is just winning. Put the king here. And I'm annoyed I didn't go for this, because this is actually much better. Put the king on b8. Because knight here, it's just too many threats. This would have been a beautiful way to win. The game was still quite nice. I took on d5. This is still winning. He takes to the pawn, and now I take on here. he can't now try to save his rook because look at all these pieces. This is easily winning. Maybe I even switch back now, come over with mate. So he found a good move. He played queen d3. He gives up the exchange. I take the rook now. And here I played very accurately actually. I played rook g8 and the main idea is knight e4 check and rook takes g2. So let's say he does something. This idea would be winning because of the power of these two. So my opponent finds another very good move showing his natural talent. King c4. Now he's trying to get counterplay with this, but I calculated carefully. My knight needs to come back to help the defense. Now he can't save his bishop. So he went queen takes a5, starting a counter-attack. I played rook takes g2, and now he played a blunder. He played queen a8 check. Now, he should have played rook h1, which is an amazing idea because he opens up this. But I'm still winning after rook c2 check, but it was a better shot. After queen a8 check, king c7, d6. The reason I put my knight here is now shown. I played rook takes d6, and I'm the one who's mating him. I can give a rook back, my extra rook, to get the initiative. Queen a5 check, king d7. At some point he has to take my rook. He's losing. He decides to take it here. But now it's not a check, and I have 3 pieces attacking his lone king, and I can start to bring him in. Queen f4 check. It's checkmate, or I'm completely winning wherever he goes. The computer says it's a mistake, but I don't necessarily agree. It's too late now. Rook c2 check, king b6, rook c6 check. I don't need to take the bishop. King takes b7, knight takes pawn check, king a7, queen e3 check, king b8, rook c8 checkmate. That was the end of the game. So, yeah, I think a pretty good game. Do like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to show, I had a loss on Sunday, which I'm also planning to show, which I didn't play as well in, but this whole idea of putting the bishop here against White's most common setup against the Stonewall Dutch. You don't play c6 because you might want to put the knight there. You don't castle because you want to use your h-pawn. So you throw the knight in so the bishop is uncovered. Now, if they don't pressurize the center, you can bring this knight out, which is very useful because it controls the center and a little bit of pressure here, and you develop. And now you push your h-pawn. And you can do this because you've got this strong half Stonewall setup, and you're aiming to open up avenues for attack, which is what I did in the game. And now I have this rook to attack, so I transferred the queen over, and I just brought all my bits in. And this position is very tough for my opponent already after only 15 moves. So a nice game, I thought. And I went through that quite quickly, tried to keep the video quite short. My opponent can be a great player. I think he needs to slow down at certain moments, maybe not play blitz as much as he does, but he's clearly extremely talented, and he just got on a bad opening in this game where you know, he didn't find the right plans, and it was pretty painful for him.